A cold wind blows across a silent desert. Dust rises in slow motion, and a lone man stands on the ash-covered ground where his home once stood. His clothes are torn, his face is hollow, his hands shake, but they are lifted toward heaven. "I don't understand," he whispers, "but I still trust you." This man is Job, a man who lost everything in a single day. A man who had every reason to curse God, but instead, he worshipped, and the question that echoes across thousands of years is this: how does a person trust God when life falls apart? How does someone hold on to faith? When everything else is gone, stay with this story, because Job's journey may change the way you walk through your own pain. And it all begins. On an ordinary morning, the sun rises over the land of Uz. Golden light breaks over rolling hills. Fields shimmer with grain. Shepherds lead animals out to graze. And in the center of it all is Job, a man known for his kindness, a man known for his integrity, a man blessed with wealth, honor, and a family he loves more than breath itself. His children laugh around the breakfast table. His servants prepare the day's work. And Job watches with a quiet smile, grateful for every gift God has given him. He wakes early each morning to pray for his family. He offers sacrifices for each child, just in case they failed God in their hearts. He lives not out of fear, but out of love. This is a man whose life is full, a man who has everything he could ever dream of, a man who believes that goodness will always lead to blessings. But storms do not send warnings, and even the righteous feel the wind. Stay with this moment, because everything in Job's world is about to change. It begins as a peaceful afternoon. Birds glide across the sky. Workers move quietly through the fields. Nothing seems unusual, until Job sees a man running toward him. The man falls at Job's feet, gasping for breath. His voice breaks as he speaks. "Job, your oxen and donkeys were stolen. Your servants were killed. Only I escaped to tell you." Job freezes. Before his heart can even absorb the shock, another man runs toward him. "Job, fire fell from the sky. It burned your sheep. It killed more servants. Only I escaped to tell you." Job stares into the distance, numb. His hands begin to tremble. And then, a third messenger arrives, panic in his eyes, dust on his clothes. "Job, raiders attacked the camels. Your men are gone. Only I escaped to tell you." His entire business, his wealth, his future, gone in moments. But the day is not over, not even close. As the third messenger is still speaking, Job sees a fourth man running, and instantly, something inside him knows. This one is different. This one carries a heavier weight. The messenger collapses to his knees. His voice breaks apart. "Your children, they were in the oldest brother's house. A wind came from the desert. The house collapsed. None survived. The world falls silent." Job's breath catches in his throat. The ground beneath him seems to disappear. His children, his joy, his heart, gone. All of it. All in one single unthinkable day. And this is the place where most stories would end. Where despair wins. Where darkness swallows hope. But Job does something that even heaven watches in awe. He falls to the ground. He tears his robe. He shakes from grief. And through tears he whispers words that echo through eternity. "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." No anger. No accusations. Just raw pain, held tightly to unbroken faith. But the storm is not finished. A deeper battle is coming. A battle not of possessions, but of the soul. And this next part of Job's story may challenge everything you think about faith, suffering, and God himself. Days pass. The sun rises. But Job no longer does. He sits in silence, staring at the empty places where his children once laughed. But the storm moves closer. Not to his home this time, but to his flesh. One morning, Job wakes with a burning ache in his skin. He looks down and sees a red mark. Then another, and another. Within hours, painful boils cover his entire body. His skin cracks. His breath stings. Every movement feels like fire. He leaves the village, not to hide, but because the pain makes him collapse onto the ground outside the city. He sits on a pile of ashes. He breaks a piece of pottery, and he scrapes his wounds because the burning is unbearable. A once-unarmed man, reduced to this moment of agony. A moment when every voice inside him whispers, "Give up," but he doesn't speak. He just breathes through tears. This is the battlefield where faith is tested, not when things are taken, but when suffering enters your own body. And Job is not done fighting. When Job's wife sees him, she can't hold back her grief. Her hands shake, tears burn down her face. She has lost everything to her children, her home, her future. Grief makes people say things they don't fully mean. And in her pain, she cries out, "Are you still holding on to your faith? Curse God, and just die." Her words cut deeper than the boils on his skin, because they come from the person he loves most. But Job lifts his eyes. Not with anger, but with sorrow. Shall we accept good from God, and not accept trouble? He doesn't say it proudly. He doesn't say it with strength. He says it like a broken man choosing, again, not to let go. Sometimes the hardest part of suffering is when people around you don't understand your faith. But Job remains steady. barely breathing, barely speaking, but steady. And then, from a distance, he sees dust rising on the road. 3 silhouettes walk toward him. Old friends, men who traveled from far away because they heard Job was suffering. Help has arrived. Comfort has come, or so it seems. But this part of Job's story will show that not every friend brings healing. Some wounds come disguised as wisdom. Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar sit beside him. For 7 days and 7 nights, they say nothing. They just sit. They cry, they tear their clothes, they mourn with him, and for a moment, it feels holy. It feels like what friendship should be. But then, Job breaks the silence. He opens his mouth and pours out every fear inside him. I wish I had never been born. I cannot see God in this darkness. I am drowning in pain. He isn't doubting God's existence. He's expressing the agony of a broken heart. He's being honest, raw, human, but instead of compassion, his friends respond with correction. Job, this must be your fault. God only punishes the wicked. You must have sinned. You are hiding something. Job shakes his head. He tries to defend himself. He tries to explain, I haven't done anything to deserve this, but they won't listen. Their theology is rigid. Their minds are made. Their words hit him like stones. And Job, who has already lost everything, now loses something else, the comfort he hoped his friends would bring. Yet even here, even in this misunderstanding, he refuses to turn his back on God. He wrestles, he questions, he argues, he weeps, but he never walks away. And while Job is arguing with his friends, something is about to happen, something divine, something powerful. A presence begins to move in the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. A whisper of thunder rolls across the sky, because God is about to answer. The sky darkens, winds twist like invisible hands, thunder rumbles like a distant heartbeat. Job looks up. His friends fall silent. The air grows heavy, thick, trembling with power. Then lightning flashes across the heavens, and a voice rises from the storm. Not harsh, not condemning, but full of a strength that shakes the earth. Job, where were you when I laid the foundations of the world? The words roll like waves, not to crush him, but to lift him, to show him what his eyes had forgotten. Who set the boundaries of the sea? Who commands the morning? Who gives the horse its strength? God does not explain Job's suffering. He does something even greater. He reveals himself. For the first time in his long season of darkness, Job sees the God who holds the galaxies, the God who breathes life into every creature, the God who never lost control, even when Job's world fell apart. The storm swirls around him, but inside Job, something becomes calm, like a flame rekindled, like a heartbeat steadying. He finally speaks, his voice trembling with awe. I spoke of things too wonderful for me to understand. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. And those words mark the beginning of the greatest turning point in Job's entire life. The storm fades, clouds break open, sunlight pours across the land like liquid gold. Job stands slowly, weak, scarred, but changed, not because his pain vanished, not because his questions were answered, but because he encountered God in the middle of the ashes. And then something unexpected happens. God turns to Job's friends, the ones who wounded him with their words, and tells them they must ask Job to pray for them. And Job, the man who lost everything, the man who suffered more than they could understand, chooses forgiveness. He prays for them. Not with bitterness, not with pride, but with compassion. And in that moment of mercy, God restores Job, his health, his livelihood, his future, more flocks, more harvests, more abundance than before. And then, something Job never expected, God blesses him with new children, sons and daughters, radiant and joyful. The Bible says his daughters were the most beautiful in the land. And Job lived long enough to see generations of his family rise and grow. But make no mistake, this is not a story where God simply replaces what was lost. This is a story where God walks through the fire with a broken man, and brings him out refined. Job's scars remained. His memories remained. But so did his faith. And that faith became a beacon for millions who would suffer after him. Job teaches something most of us don't want to face. Sometimes, life breaks. Sometimes the righteous suffer. Sometimes we cry out for answers and hear only silence. But silence does not mean absence, and pain does not mean abandonment. Job discovered that God was not just the God of blessings, but the God who sits beside you in the ashes, the God who listens to every tear, the God who can handle your questions, your confusion, your anger. And he is the God who speaks, not always with explanations, but always with presence. Job's story reminds us that faith is not pretending everything is okay. Faith is trusting God when everything is not okay. It's saying, I don't understand, but I still trust you. Maybe you've stood in your own ashes. Maybe you know the feeling of loss, confusion, or betrayal. Maybe you've prayed prayers that felt unheard. But the same God who stepped into Job's storm can step into yours, not to shame you, not to blame you, but to show you that you are not alone, not for one moment. Hold on. Even with trembling hands, even with a broken heart. Hold on. because God is closer than you think, and the story isn't over yet. Job's journey is not just ancient history. It's a reminder for anyone walking through pain today. A reminder that storms don't have the final word. God does. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need courage right now. And if you want more cinematic Bible stories that help you feel God in new ways, consider subscribing. It helps this mission reach more people who need hope today. Until next time, may you see God even in the storm, and may your faith shine even in the ashes.